Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Tucker. Let me teach you how to factor trinomials in the form of x squared plus bx plus c. What I'm going to focus on is factoring trinomials where your leading coefficient is 1, okay? Where actually our a is 1, ax squared plus bx plus c. All right, I'm going to use the AC method. And the AC method is this. With a trinomial, our basic form is ax squared plus bx plus c. Here my leading coefficient is 1. So all of the ones I'm going to do in this video, my leading coefficient is 1. That's the easy trinomials to factor. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to build a t-chart here. And I'm going to first multiply my a times my c and put that number right here. And then my b term, my 10, is going to go right there. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to find all the factors of 24. Okay, it could be 1 times 24. No, let me just do this. 1 comma 24. 1 times 24 is 24. It could be 2 times 12. That multiplies to 24. It could be 3 times 8. It could be 4 times 6. Let's see, 5 doesn't divide into that. Okay. Now, it could also be negatives. It could be negative 1 times negative 24. That gives us positive 24. Negative 2 times negative 12 is positive 24. Negative 3 times negative 8 gives positive 24. And negative 4 times negative 6. There's all of your factors of 24. Now what we want to do that we have all the factors, we're going to add the two numbers together. 1 times 24 is 25. 2 plus 12 is 14. 3 plus 8 is 11. 4 plus 6 is 10. Here we get negative 1 plus negative 24, that's negative 25. Negative 2 plus negative 12, negative 14. Negative 3 plus negative 8, negative 11. Negative 4 plus negative 6 is negative 10. We really didn't need to do all of those, but I'm going to use this chart with some following trinomials that we're going to factor. Okay? Once we do that, then we're looking for the set of factors that multiply together to give us this 24, our a times c, but add up to b, the 10. Well, that's these two factors right here. So what we're going to do next, if you like to factor using the grouping method, well, let me show you how this works, and then I'll show you the shortcut. If you're factoring by grouping, what we're going to do is we're going to keep our x squared, and we're going to keep our positive 24 down here at the end. We're going to replace 10x with 4x and 6x. So plus 4, you know what, let me change the color here. Plus 4x plus 6x. So we just renamed the 10x. Okay? Now we're going to group. If you're a factoring by grouping person, you would do this next. Oop. Let me change my pen color. And we're going to pull our GCF out of this group, which is x. X times what gives you x squared? Yeah, that's x. X times what gives you a positive 4x? That's got to be a positive 4. Bring down the plus. The GCF in the second group is 6. Pull that out. 6 times x gives you the 6x. And the 6 times what gives you 24? Yeah, that's got to be a 4. The whole purpose behind factoring by grouping is that we get this common binomial factor right here. We get the common binomial factor. It's common in both this front term and the back term, so we factor it out. And when you factor it out, it's like removing the whole thing. And what's left goes in the second set of parentheses, the x plus 6. So I have factored that trinomial. Now, I want you to double check real quick with FOIL. Front two terms gives me the x squared. When I multiply my last two terms, I get the positive 24. Outsides gives me 6x. Insides gives me 4x. 6x plus 4x gives me the 10x. That right there. Always double check your answers with FOIL. Now, here's the thing, and you might have already noticed this. If your leading coefficient is 1, you don't need to go through all of this. Because look at this. Here's your 4 that we started off with right here. Positive 4 shows up there, and this positive 6 shows up right here. The reason I went through the whole factoring by grouping method is we are going to have to use that if our leading coefficient, our a, is a number other than 1. Then you've got to have, whatever method you're going to use to factor once you put your t-chart together. Some people like to factor by grouping. Some people like to factor using a box method, and there's all kinds of methods out there. Okay? All right, let's try factoring this one. Once again, we're going to build our t-chart, and this time, let's see what's different between what we did in the first one and what we have here in the second one. My a is still 1, but this time my c is negative 24. Okay, this is negative 24, so that changes a lot of things here. If your product of AC is 24, negative 24, when you multiply these together, you get positive 24. All of these multiplied together give me positive 24. So we're going to have to rework this t-chart. Okay? So let me just delete it. I'm going to delete it. Delete. Get rid of that. We're just going to have to build the whole thing all over again. That's okay. We can do that. Okay, a times c goes here. Well, that's 1 times negative 24. Negative 24. Your b goes here. This time it's 2. Okay? Let's start building our chart. I could have negative 1 times positive 24. That gives me a product of negative 24. When I add those together, I get 23. If I switch the sign here, that still gives me a product of negative 24, but the sum is negative 23. Okay? I'm going to pause and fill out the rest of the chart. You could do the same. Okay, so I finished filling out my t-chart here, my AC chart, and I've come up with all of the different combinations that's going to give me a product of a times c, which is 24. So I'm looking for the set where when I add them together, I get positive 2. And that's this set down here. Okay? Now since our a is 1, we can just go ahead and use those two. We'll use a little shortcut here. Put an x here and an x here, because when I multiply my front two terms together, I've got to get x squared. I'm going to put in what I found here, negative 4, and a positive 6, and I'm going to double check my answer with FOIL. When I multiply my front two terms together, I get x squared. Multiply my outside two terms, I get positive 6x. Inside two terms is negative 4x. Last two terms gives me negative 24. Inside, outsides are always like terms. Losing my voice. So I get x squared plus 2x, whoops, not positive, minus 24, and that's what we originally had, so I know that's my final answer. Okay, I want to show you real quickly, I'll just do this one more time, the factoring by grouping thing, because it will help us when we get ready to factor when your a is a number other than 1. What we do is we'll replace that middle term, the 2x, with a negative 4x and a positive 6. So negative 4x, whoops, I said one thing and I wrote another. Minus 4x plus 6x. So what I did was I renamed 2x with these two like terms. Now when you factor by grouping, I'm going to group those together and group those together. Your GCF in the first group is x, which leaves you with, well, x times x gives you that x squared, and x times negative 4, x times negative 4 gives you negative 4x. In this group right here, your GCF is 6. 6 times what gives you 6x? Now that's got to be an x. 6 times what gives you negative 24? That's got to be negative 4. The whole purpose behind factoring by grouping is this common binomial factor. If it's not the same, you've done something wrong. If you factor that out, x minus 4, it's like dividing it out of both groups. Once it's gone in both groups, whatever's left over goes in the second set of parentheses. And it looks like I erased my 6 there, so it's x plus 6. Isn't that what we got up here? Yeah, it sure is. Let's do another example. Okay, we've got this one here. I am going to go back. I see that I've got an a times c that's negative 24. I'm going to go back and copy this chart again. Let me just copy it. I'm going to take a picture of it. And I'm just going to copy and paste over to here, because this chart will still work for this problem. I'll just use a different color. Okay, this time my a times c is negative 24, but this time I get a negative 2 here. My b is negative 2. So I'm looking for the two factors that multiply together to give me negative 24, but this time add to negative 2. And it's this one right here. So this time, I'm going to use the shortcut. Since my leading coefficient is 1, it should be x minus 4 and x plus 6. Okay, let's use FOIL. Front two terms gives me x squared. Outside two terms gives me a plus 6x. Inside two terms gives me a minus 4x. And multiplying my last two terms, I get negative 24. So now when I do insides outsides, I get a positive 2x. But hey, wasn't it supposed to be a negative 2x? See, this is the thing people forget to do. They forget to do the check and go back and check to see if they made a mistake. Now, we made a mistake somewhere, and I know you caught it when I did it. But a lot of people, they won't. They'll make this simple little mistake and not catch it because they forget to do their check at the end. What was the mistake that I made? Yeah, it's a positive 4. This should be a positive 4. And this is a negative 6. That should have been a negative 6 right there. Okay, so it really should have been x plus 4 and x minus 6. That changes when you do your outsides. That becomes a negative 6. This becomes a positive 4. Add those together and you get the negative 2x. I see this kind of simple mistake made all the time. And a simple 15-second check, you would have found your error and corrected it. Okay, let's do a couple more of these. You know, the whole purpose, I guess you probably noticed by now, your C on all of these is either positive 24 or negative 24. I've just been working through these so you can figure out, you know, how do you deal with the signs? When the sign is a plus plus or a plus minus or a minus plus, or they're both minus. You know, how do you deal with the sign? Here, A times C is negative 24, but this time your B is positive 10. We're going to take that out and put positive 10 here. So I'm looking for the set of factors that when multiplied together give me negative 24, my A times my C, but that add up to positive 10. Well, here's my positive 10 right here, so it's got to be those two factors. So it's going to be x minus 2 times the quantity of x plus 12. Now watch when you check with FOIL. Front two terms gives me x squared. My outside two terms gives me a positive 12x. Inside two terms is minus 2x. Last two terms gives me the negative 24. When you combine like terms, your outsides and your insides, you get your positive 10x. X squared plus 10x minus 24. Definitely double check your answer. Here, I want negative 10 to be my b. Negative 10 is my b. This time I'm going to use these two factors. X plus 2, that quantity, times x minus 12. Check with FOIL. Front two terms is x squared. This time my outside two terms gives me minus 12x, and my inside two terms gives me plus 2x. Last two terms, minus 24. Inside, outsides, this time adds up to negative 10x. Okay? See how you got to keep working the signs? Do you see how it's real easy to get the signs in the wrong place? You'll catch it if you will do the check. Doing this check only takes 10 or 15 seconds, but it's well worth the time. It's just so easy to put the sign in the wrong place here. Okay, and I think that's all oh, let's try this one. We've got two more. Let's just do them real fast. On both of these, since my a is 1, I know an x has to go here and go here. And same over here, x and x, because when I multiply my front two terms together, I've got to get my x squared here and here. This time, okay, the product of a times c is negative 24, but here they have to add up to either positive 23 or negative 23. So let's put a 23 right here. If it's negative 23, which we have right here, I'm going to use these two factors. Plus 1 minus 24. Okay, double checking with FOIL. I get x squared. Outside two terms, minus 24x. Inside two terms is a, whoops, that's funny, 24x plus 1x minus 24. Those add up to negative 23x. Okay, I know I did that one right. Over here, my b is a positive 23, so I want to use those two factors, minus 1 and a plus 24. Check with FOIL. X squared. Outside two terms is plus 24x. Inside's, I did it again, didn't I? 24x. That's what happens when your brain thinks faster than your hands are writing. Minus 1x minus 24. Inside, outsides adds up to 23x, and it's positive. So that double checks. Okay? Well, that's how you do that. I'll make another video where your a is a number other than 1. Okay, that'll be the next video. So good luck with this one.